Misty Shores. We are just some long distance away. The obviously it's snowing. Realistically, if depending on when the commander would have tried to pick up on where Ludric was or try to figure out what's going on, uh, she would have seen him leave the grounds of Misty, kind of just walking, following a path for a while, deviating from it, going through the woods, and just keeps going for quite some time until he kind of crested on a ridge. And of course, it gotten snowy, so it's easier to track him if she was trying to follow him that way, unless she's doing it through magical means, which I assume is how she's doing it. In terms of, does she have any special senses? Any in particular, like just passive magical sense, anything like that?
Probably nothing super major, but would be able to just tell like magical items and stuff, magical auras, but
Okay.
and being able to tell like who people are fae and stuff like that too. But nothing too much beyond that.
So, so Ludric does not come off as Fae. Trying to think. So you can tell people are Fae, but is there anything else that you could detect, like what a person is, like any other general senses?
Probably not. I never really determined, so most likely no.
Okay. So magical sense wise, you would get the air that the place has a magical sense to it, but it's more of a the weave has a night almost it's almost like it's kind of intermingling with the area a bit. Mana is abundant, but there's nothing when you look at Ludric or look at his direction, like you don't get signatures of somebody off in the distance watching him, or you're not picking up any other magic around him except for him when he's walking.
Okay.
All right. So we can, if you want, let's say keyed up 30 seconds, and then we can start. Show yourself if you want to, whenever, and we kind of just play it by ear from there.
Yep.
We'll see. We have Hearn's endorsement, so whatever happens is whatever happens. All right. Countdown now.
Okay, we're in now, about to get started. It is invite plus, you can request on me.
All right, sweet.
Oh,
Oh. Well, I see you've decided to take up my offer. This this little place out here is nice. It's quiet. Uh, about a year ago, we were out here on a small mission for the Misty. We got hired to save Christmas of all things from a PMC. Landscape's changed a bit, unfortunately. Usually it's a bit heavy in the snow, but it's snowing nonetheless. I thought it would be I was hoping it'd be a more comfortable setting for you.
It's nice.
Plus, it's quiet. No nosy eyes watching. Well, at least not mine. Moon's very bright tonight, but I suppose all the lights, well, at least it gives it a proper atmosphere.
Indeed.
Less than a week until the ball. Things are getting exciting. Well, exciting's a term. Tense. Some people are very tense. I'm of the opinion at this point it is too late to be worrying too much about things. We simply go, we enjoy the ball for what it is, make the best of our time there, and well, that's really it, to be honest with you. How often does your lady throw balls like this, if you don't mind me asking?
Whenever the mood strikes her.
Flights of fancy, I can respect that. People told me recently I need to be more selfish in regards to that, so I don't know, throwing a ball simply because I feel like it, honestly, something I should look into. I mean, we have the capability now. We have an entire company willing and capable of essentially on a drop of a hat, just having a bunch of musicians and other performers ready.
Interesting.
How's it
Well, I
going?
mean, it's a record label performance is what we do.
Good.
At least
Just
it's more specific.
walking with Leisure currently, so feel free to
Okay.
request whenever you want.
All right, I'm coming in just a second then.
I trust your day's been well, at least.
Yes. How about yours?
Well, I would say it's not terrible. Got an interesting bit of news this morning about a friend of ours, but, well, I say ours, but you wouldn't know them. But we're kind of looking into things regards to that. And of course, there's preparation for this week coming. For the life of me, I can't remember, and I don't want to look at the invitation again for the sake of I don't want to come off as rude. Was this a masquerade we're being invited to? Or was this simply just a ball?
The ball, is it a masquerade or just a normal ball?
Normal ball.
Well, just a normal one. No specific attire.
Well, at least that makes things a bit simpler. Honestly, with the ball coming up and any other future events, I thought about getting a mask, appropriate for like masquerades and such, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to overdress. Show up to a ball wearing a mask and realizing, oh, well, now I feel silly.
It's important that
What does that
when
sound like?
I'm
Who
talking,
knows?
still talk in first person as if, I'm talking to you. I'll just basically reiterate to you.
Mhm.
But you'll talk in first person as if I'm literally talking through you like a speaker.
Definitely smells like pine everywhere. But again, we are in the middle of a rather deep forest. Kind of expected. Well, some of these trees, not all these trees necessarily. The landscape of this area makes no sense. The trees either fit the bill or they don't at all.
Yes.
Hmm. Remember one morning I came here, just on a whim. I believe it was a few weeks after the event. The little rescue mission. And I just sat here for a while and just watched the lights. For the longest time. I thought about things, the simple things in life. Everyone's always talking about, wars and politics and in positions of power, how you have to handle yourself, how you have to... images and such, right? And coming here reminded me that images is always everything. Sometimes you just have to enjoy the world for what it is. Enjoy the sights while you have them. Of course, then again, it's much easier to do that when I don't have bullets flying over my head. Things trying to knock me out. Ugh. Fun memories.
I find a certain calmness in the simplicity of combat. At least you know who's with or against you.
See, that's... On one hand, I agree, but on the other, I disagree. And then on the other, I also agree. On the other, I also disagree again. It's... I used to think it was that simple. And it can be. It can be if you are very precise in how you act and how you treat things, right? This is the enemy, they go against us, therefore they must be eliminated and taken care of. But I also don't fight with an army, I don't fight with a nation or people, I fight with groups, I fight with friends. So fights like that always become weird mishmashes of... I have seen in combat people break down in the middle of it going, all right, well, we're going to go fight this enemy force that's trying to kill us. But not these ones. These ones are fine, so we need to save these. But then the other half of the group you're with just goes, no, you can't do that. The enemy, and it's... clash of cultures. It's... I both am happy by it, and God, I am just... At times it's infuriating, right? Because... it's not simple anymore. You have to take time to think. And thinking on a battlefield is not something you have time for.
Indeed.
It's very risky, very dangerous. Kind of miss those days when it was just very simple. Simple little jobs you did every now and then. Bandits doing bandit-related activities. Monster in a cave that didn't belong there, or whatever was in there did not need to be where the monster was, so you just went in and took care of it. But ever since I've gotten into politics and I've gotten into, image, again, I suppose we're going back to that whole thing. It is so much more complicated than it needs to be. Oh, well. I suppose we can keep walking for a little bit longer. After all, this isn't it. The coastline's a bit sharp, and it kind of just turns to water. But I don't question these things too much. Just watch your step down, dear. Oh. Oh. Startled me. I turned around, didn't see her. Oh, she just decided she didn't want to deal with that. All right, well, that's fair, I suppose. I don't blame her for that. So, a rapier.
Indeed.
Admittedly, I didn't take you for a rapier wielder. And it's not to be judgmental about it when I say that, mind you. You strike me more as a glaive or a pike wielder.
I like the elegance of a rapier. All pikes and glaives have their usefulness.
I believe I told you that we share a similar mindset in certain things.
Very similar.
Very simplistic. It is. I believe you might have me beat a little bit in the reach department, unfortunately, you know. But they all do the same. I suppose I should also assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you view battle as a dance of sorts, a rhythm.
Yes. The ebb and flow of combat is, as you said, like a dance. When with good partners.
I guess that begs the question, with you leading as much as you do you have time? Well, not time. Phrase that question, that comes off as a weird connotation. Do you find yourself constantly finding proper dance partners in that regard? I would assume, with power of position,
He does.
they wouldn't put you in a place where you have to constantly put yourself in danger. After all, this way you control the forces, they do it for you. Do you have time to even practice or not?
I tend to lead from the front.
A woman of action.
You can speak in third person a little bit here. Just say,
From my experience,
yes, I
at
make
least,
sure to
there are
keep
two
my
kinds
servants
of
well trained.
commanders. There are those who would lead from the back lines to give orders and trust the lieutenants to take over for them. And there are those who would walk into the battle with them on the front
Or those
lines.
of my court well trained.
I tend
Probably
to.
figure out which one gets more respect.
Yes, that's what I found. I tend to lead from the front in order to keep my troops in line, well trained, skilled. I find giving them an example is helpful.
Can be very helpful. Morale is a very, very heavy thing. And a lot of people realize that. Everyone just thinks, oh, if you have the strongest people on your side, you're fine. But if no one has a fight anymore in them, it's just... you're fodder. That's all you are.
I come with.
Well, that's not steep enough. We could probably climb that. That's fine. doesn't mean anything bad. Hello?
Good evening, Ludric.
Good evening, Ludwig.
My vassal will be speaking for me.
My vassal will be speaking for me.
I see. Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Curious as why you have asked my commander to be here today, or one of my commanders.
I'm curious as to why you've asked one of my commanders to be here today.
Well, as I stated before, a simple talk. Nothing more, nothing less. As I stated before, I have no ill will or bad intent, and this is not done here to do anything nefarious, as I promised.
I see.
I see.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to do this, Italy. Because it's only fair.
You are very interesting, you and your bardic circle.
You are very interesting. You and your bardic circle.
I'm pleased to hear that.
After all, why I invited you.
After all, that's why I've invited you.
If you were hoping for a performance, I suppose I could do that.
Consider it.
I will consider it.
As for me being interesting, well, it's not every day you see full-armed canines walking around, so I have a tendency to draw attraction from all different angles and all sorts of people wherever I go.
You spoke earlier of what is it? Vassal, what was it again? What was the dog speaking of?
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
The keeping troops and subordinates happy. Morality. No, yes. In any case, morality is interesting to me.
Earlier you spoke of morality. It's interesting to me.
How so?
Usually I obtain morality by usually feeding my enemies to my subordinates.
Usually I obtain morality by feeding my enemies to my subordinates.
Morality can be given in a multitude of ways. That is one way if you show as an overwhelming force in conquering your enemies. Then it is definitely a way to boost morale amongst your troops. After all, seeing the results of what you're capable of doing and succeeding in doing that definitely would bolster one's ranks in terms of the mood and attitude. But it's not the only way.
No, but it is the most effective for my court.
No, but it is less effective for my court.
Fair enough. I believe that's one of the reasons why I enjoy being a bard. try to be inspirational, bring morale to the troops in times when things are dark, lift spirits, and hopefully give them the song and inspiration they need to push just a little bit more, just a little bit longer.
I see.
That's why I became one.
I see.
In any case, Ludwig, I will
In
look
any case,
forward to
Ludwig,
seeing you.
I will look forward to seeing you.
I look forward towards the ball.
All right, that's it. You can continue having your conversation.
If I were to tell you that was a bit intimidating, well, I'd say if I were to try to lie to you and tell you that wasn't intimidating, I would not be able to tell you that with a straight face.
Indeed.
Sorry about that. I'd gather my thoughts there for a moment. Not often I meet royalty, especially to that degree.
Understandable.
Especially also coming from where I'm from. Our royalty is... where I come from, we are a religious society. Very much about... We follow the moons. At least in our home. Each one has its own purpose. The twins, considered sisters. One is of wealth, and one is of travel. But the highest in our society are not the royalty. It would be the prophets. It would be those who would speak on behalf of the moons.
Hmm.
So to say that I am fully aware of the position I was just in, I can't say fully that I am, but I can respect her position and her power.
As you should.
Of course. They invited us to a ball. It would be rude to not show respect. Or rather, impolite, I believe, is the more appropriate term.
Indeed.
Why don't we continue on? Okay, at this rate, I'm curious to see what other wonderful guests we'll end up running into.
She was an unexpected guest for me as well.
I think... Well, now I'm going to be performing for a queen of a fey court. Well, potentially, it depends if she desires it or not. But for a bard, that is a accomplishment. That would be something to write a story about, something to tell in poems and history for time to come. recall correctly, actually, right here, the job I told you about that we went on a while back. If I recall, we came down from those mountains right there, walked all the way down, and wound up hunkering down between these two rocks while we were assaulted from all sides. And the most peculiar thing is that in the center was a train, of all things. There's no railroad tracks, there's no... You saw as we were walking around, there's no signs of civilization as far as the eye can see, and yet, plain as day, just a railroad, just a train car. Very, very bizarre times and places we live in.
As I've gathered my investigations around, it's a very strange place.
It is. You go from the range of people you meet. For one, and the most obvious example, Commander of the Fey Court and their forces, and the Queen. And then just as easily, you go maybe an hour in any direction, you find like a village of cats. Just a simple village of cats. Out of curiosity, I'm assuming with the length of time you have served your lady, you've come across some very interesting people yourself, outside of, obviously, people who have interested your lady.
Indeed.
Any of them notable?
You'd ask him if
For
he
all I do
wants
like
to
a good
bargain.
story, and I do like good experiences.
Would you like to make a deal?
Careful now. What would your deal be?
Whatever story he desires, and then whatever you would want.
Like for like. Tales of interesting people.
Tales of interesting people. I'm assuming you get to tell me one of yours, and then you get information on one of mine.
Indeed.
Feeling risky. Could agree to that.
It's a deal then.
It is a deal. So, which side would you like to reciprocate first, mine or yours?
I'd like to hear yours first.
What would you like to know?
Nothing in particular, just anyone interesting of note.
Anyone interesting of note? Well,
And not your champion Vicar Van, I've already seen him.
I think you've already seen enough of that one. Let me think. Who is someone... If I'm going to tell you this, I can at least tell you someone entertaining. I think I've got one. Person of interest. There is a man who works at Misty by the name of Koru. Wonderful man. Very, very warm and friendly, embraces all. But the peculiar thing about this one is that he tames mimics. Not only does he tame mimics, he actually carries them on him and uses them
I
as
think you have the
equipment
rest
of
of this.
sorts.
I'd scare the dog.
What he will do is he will go to
Let me know if you need
dungeons and he
anything.
will go to places where he's heard of mimics appearing. And since he has one, he can communicate with them. He uses it as a middleman of sorts to start having communications with these mimics, drawing them out, getting them to be a bit more friendly, a bit more open. But I've walked into this man's house once. It was very peculiar because everything in this house was a mimic. Everything. The chair was a mimic. The table was a mimic. I believe the fork and knife was mimics too, in some form or fashion. What he did is he rehabilitated them. Took them from places where they were going to be hunted, raised them to where they're a bit more capable of being, self-sustaining on their own without being a threat to people, and then given a place where they would hopefully not be disturbed. Something like a sanctuary.
I can't say that I've encountered many mimics in my travels, but I have, on occasion, depending on ruins or dungeons, as they like to inhabit. But it's interesting that someone's been taming them. Not something I'd considered.
A lot of people do. It's admirable in a way, again, with that line of work, and with again, as I talked about earlier, hesitation on the battlefield can get you killed. However, sometimes there are benefits to it, such as new allies. Potentially even new friends. I believe that satisfies your side of the things.
Indeed. Let me try to think of one. One that's good. I mean, I could do the unfair answer of that flaming man from the Warrens, but you've already met him. Because we didn't specify any details in our deal. But
No.
that would be unsportsmanlike.
True. Mind you, I also unfortunately would not have been able to give you much. I don't really know that one that well. That would have been me squelching on that side of the deal.
He's a loud and brash one. I don't even know he knows how long he's been down there. An interesting person. Or maybe people's. Do you mind which?
Surprise me.
Maybe a little of both. Relatively recently, in the past maybe 30, 40 years, I encountered a tribe in the winter realm of, rat creatures. Large, powerful. They had a leader who I bested in combat. Very strong, but not all that much of a match for someone with control over winter. And I had decided to. I conscripted most of their peoples to work in my armies. Though not all of them, some are still around, unfortunately.
We have a race of people that fit that description in this realm. I believe they're called Skaven.
I wonder if they're the same or related.
The Skaven that I'm aware of fit a similar bill. They are humanoid-esque in shape, very rat-like features, though. Crude implements for some, and then some are more well-dressed and armed.
Sounds similar.
That actually would be a much more effective A much more effective way to wage war, I would assume. You could have a large battle, or you can have the commanders fight each other, and the winner take all in that regards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Much less violent. In my eyes, at least.
Yes, it's a shame to waste good soldiers.
When life is precious overall, not even soldiers.
Hmm.
It's a shame to waste anyone. Lights are beautiful.
Indeed.
Makes it easy to forget the impending nature of everything around you. Oh well. I believe we have just a little bit left of the forest. Well, plains, I wouldn't call it a forest. Used to be. Used to be a lot more trees, which also might explain a few other things. It's supposed to be a pond. But there's no pond anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right down there. Oh, that's sad. And then again, the joys of time. Changes everything over time slowly. For some it improves, for some it is a detriment. Fortunately, you said recently 30, 40 years, correct?
Yes.
Unfortunately, 30, 40 years, majority of my life. I wouldn't call that very recent for me. But such is the way of mortals and immortals.
Indeed.
Personal question. Something I've found a lot when I talk to people who have very lengthy lifespans. Mind you, you work a very dangerous profession, and with your title comes many responsibilities that can endanger that at times. With that, however, I do find that some people who don't have to count the days as openly to themselves tend to be lonelier, or tend to at least not see the point in making friends. Do you take the time to find company?
On occasion. Not often, though.
Take more time for that. You'll find it to be healthier for you in the long run regardless, even if it doesn't serve a purpose outside of allowing your mind to not have to worry about the next foe to be struck down, or the next order to fulfill. Sometimes a nice little walk out in the woods can be more beneficial than what you realize.
Well considered.
I don't believe I said this earlier, but you were very kind in meeting me out here for this walk. Admittedly, I didn't think you would take the offer. Kind of half expected it. Thought I'd have a quiet evening walking, and with most things, it's never simple. Kind of prefer that, though.
Yeah. This would not be the worst place to wander alone. It's nice.
It is. Very quiet. Well, I don't want to hold you up for too long. I know your lady's probably waiting on you. After all, she took the time out of what I would assume is a very busy schedule to pay me a visit, which, again, far too kind to spend time on an old man like myself. But it is most certainly noted. Be safe getting home, dear. May the moon guide your path.
You as well.
And I assume that would be cards down unless
Yep.
unless she tries to do something on the way of him walking back.
Nope.
Okay. Good scene. Fun scene.
Indeed.
Sometimes it's the simple thing. It is the simple things.
Yeah.
Like Hearn telling you he's not going to show up. And not only does he show up, he shows up as the fucking queen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hearn. Thank
Oh
you
no.
for giving me a
Was
crisis.
my voice went on that whole time? Ugh.
I just took it as, again,
I
this is supposed to be a
cried.
non-formal.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a non-formal talk.
The funny thing is, so I was streaming and it was on my stream, so my stream has the right voice, but whatever.
Hey,
I
look at
forgot to
this.
switch it.
Look at
I went to
this.
switch it off and was like, oh no. I never switched it off. Whatever. It's fine.